Chapter 6 Season 1 is finally here, and it's truly something you've never really seen before. Now this has been one hell of a launch for not only a season but also Chapter 6 in general, and it really does mark a whole new era for Fortnite in so many different areas. It's crazy. And with Season 1 bringing us so much alone, it really does make you think, one, how they're going to top this, but two, how is this going to be one of the shortest seasons we've ever had? So with how amazing the season has already been, I thought why not make a video and not only talk about it but also explain why it's such a step up from what Chapter 5 was doing. Now this season has brought us so many new mechanics that have already shown themselves to be super useful. Wall jumping is amazing and looks super cool in combat. When you've got to get to one place to another and it's kind of a far jump, ledge jumping can be super helpful. And the barrel roll and also wall scrambling can be super useful on top of that too. Everything they added is really helpful to gameplay and just looks really cool. Beyond just movement, which I'm super happy we actually did end up getting more of, there were so many other new additions that will probably only stay around for this season alone. One of them, of course, being the new sprites that were added to the game, which are not only really cute, but they're also extremely helpful in so many different gameplay aspects. There's some that heal you, some that send you up in the air, and of course one that rewards you with weapons. I just think these are really cool in general, and I'm super happy they got added to the game. Now, the boons are somewhat like augments, although I wish they would have just added those instead. I know a lot of people hated on augments at the time, and that's probably why they will never come back. And what's funny about that is that most of the people that were hating on augments around that time are the people that want them back now. And it's like, maybe stop blindly hating on mechanics every time they're added, because there's a chance they'll never come back and then you'll be sad about it later on. But that's just me ranting a little bit. I hope one day augments do come back, but these are pretty cool to get right now. I think there's around 4 of them. Some of them let you heal in water, some of them let you reload faster, etc, etc. So definitely a cool addition, but augments were far better. You had way more options on what you could pick. But I think with only 4 of these being offered, there's just not much diversity compared to what augments were. With all that aside though, the bosses are at an all-time high. These are some of the coolest bosses I've ever seen come to the game. You have the mini shoguns around the map that aren't really mini, but compared to the Shogun X they are. These are pretty cool to fight. Some people are saying they're way too hard, which is not true. The same thing goes for Shogun X. He definitely is somewhat of a challenge, but the main challenge about these bosses is really just worrying about getting third parties. The bosses themselves are nothing crazy, you know, when it comes to being hard, but they are really cool to fight and really fun for Fortnite standards. The puppet boss is also really cool. I like the concept of her being, you know, the character, then going into the puppet. It's really cool they did it. Reminds me of a Zelda boss and really shows the strong direction that Fortnite is going in with their bosses. And of course, finally, you have the new UI they added to the game. This is an all-time high, especially the Battle Pass UI. Finally, no more battle stars in the game. The fact that everything costs the same amount of levels is really cool. It was so much better than the old format. And overall, everything just looks a lot more clean in the UI and everything like that. And even combining all the passes for crew was an amazing decision. Fortnite crew is already a pretty good deal in my opinion, getting the battle pass, 1,000 V-Bucks, and also a skin bundle. But now the fact that they're adding 3 more passes to the mix is insane. Like, that's actually a steal. My only main problem, and I'm just gonna bring it up here because I have nowhere else to, is that I think leveling up this season is terrible. It's so hard right now. Mainly because they removed milestone quests. I'm not really sure why they did this, but other than that, everything about the mechanics and add-ons are great. Now this map is already huge, not only talking about the map itself, but it also already has 17 locations or 18 locations, which is insane. By far the biggest season 1 map, you know, talking about POIs themselves. But talking about the actual build of this map, it might be the biggest we've had, I'm not really sure though. Before I get into anything about the layouts or the terrain, these locations look absolutely amazing. The map looks absolutely amazing. These locations, especially the ones with the more city aspects to them, look so sick. And just with the amount of bombs we have on this map, all of the vibrant colors they have to them while still having a hint of that realistic aspect, it just looks so good. But outside of all that, getting to the actual locations themselves, they have a great mix of these small but impactful locations while also having some of the bigger ones you'd see in Chapter 5. What I mean by smaller but impactful locations, I'm talking about something that is more like a town, something like Lazy Lake or even Holly Hedges. Here, instead of doing that with the towns, instead they give us Japanese structures. They all look absolutely amazing and also have really great layouts to them because they're not just one big mansion or whatever the hell Redland Rig was. You still have some of those one location POIs like the waterfall area you have, or even the factories, but you also have locations like Night Shift Forest, Shogun Solitude, or even Flooded Frogs that really have that simplistic town layout you'd see in Chapter 1 or Chapter 2, but also have their own little concept to them. Beyond just those types of POIs though, you have more futuristic POIs that go off more of those chapter 4 concepts, with things like Canyon Crossing, Twinkle Terrance, and of course, Seaport City. What makes these POIs specifically work so good in my opinion is that they work so well with the new movement we got added to the game. Jumping around Seaport City with all of the new parkour movement feels crazy and really does add to that ninja aspect of the season. Or even at Canyon Crossing when there's a ton of open areas you could fall into around the POI, so you really gotta use those mechanics to traverse the area. But outside of all of those POIs that go with the season's theme, of course you have other stuff around there too, like Pumped Power, Brutal Boxcars, and of course Foxy Floodgate that aren't on theme, but they also fit into the map because they're their own thing. And they're able to do that with how well the season does, and not only having its own theme, but also transitioning it into a more modern aspect. Where when you look at the Chapter 5 map by Season 4, it's just a mess of a bunch of POIs that aren't even really that good in the first place. And looking at Season 1, it really just doesn't have that much diversity or fun and cool POIs. And I'm not dogging on Season 1, I do think it was by far the best of those 4, but the map wasn't really anything too special. My only main complaint is I don't think they have done the best with loot distribution the way that Chapter 1 or Chapter 2 did. I'll go 3 floors and I'll find like maybe 1 gun, but most of the time I just won't find anything. Mainly there's really just not that much chest, and I don't think it's a huge problem when you have more loot than less loot, because Chapter 2 did that and it was just fine, and it's kind of weird going from that to this, so I do hope they kind of fix that, but other than that, not many complaints. Incredible map, a great Season 1 starter, and probably the best we've had so far when it comes to launching a season. Now, last thing we obviously have to talk about is the loot pool. Starting off with the AR loot pool, Chapter 5, Hot Take did a great job with his ARs. I don't really care much about bullet drop. Objectively, it just takes more skill, so of course hit scan that's a lot easier to play with is gonna feel a lot better. But even outside of the whole bullet drop hit scan argument, I think that the Chapter 5 ARs just felt really fun to play with. I love the striker, I love the combat, and of course the burst that they added in Season 4 was incredible. Nevertheless though, I am happy that hit scan did return. Like I said, bullet drop definitely takes a lot more skill, but hit scan does feel better overall just cause it is less skillful. And I'm not going to get too mad about that, so I am happy it did return. It feels a lot better, and these new ARs are really fun to play with. The only difference between the two that you get is one of them is a lot faster and doesn't have a scope, and the other one is obviously has the hollow scope and shoots a little bit slower. One great thing they did with the scoped gun is that you can toggle it on and off now, which is pretty cool to see, but overall, both these ARs are great, and I don't really care which one I have. But the main thing I was worried about is the shotgun meta. You guys know this is the most important thing in the game for me, and after Chapter 5's abysmal shotgun meta, I was pretty scared this one would be terrible too, but it actually did pick up the pace. The new auto shotgun is pretty fun to use. I am getting kind of sick of these drum gun type weapons that they added after Chapter 5, but to be honest, I'll take it. It's not as bad as the Chapter 5 one. The new pump is also really fun to use. Definitely not the best objectively, but this might be one of my favorites they've ever had. And of course the Omni shotgun, which is a lot like the Ranger. Personally, I think it's a lot better because it at least has 2 bullets and it does pretty good damage. Now, SMGs are something I always go back and forth on because I don't care about them too much, but I also really like close encounter fighting. So when there is a really good SMG in the loot pool, it's mainly what I end up using over even some of the shotguns sometimes. And these 2 SMGs, especially the precision, go absolutely crazy. These comboed with the shotgun is one of the craziest combos I've seen in my entire life. I'm not about to say I prefer over the tac and rapid fire or the pump and rapid fire, but it's up there. This thing absolutely shreds. Both of them do. I like the concept of the other one where it shoots and it gets a little bit faster over time, but nothing beats the precision in my opinion. Now, moving towards the actual special items, there's a lot of fun stuff we've gotten so far, and there's still so much more to come. The new sword, in my opinion, is a lot better than the kinetic blade. I'm a huge kinetic blade glazer, but I don't think it's the best for combat, where this new sword is not only great for combat, but also has a lot of good mobility purposes to it. It runs super fast, and also the jumping is really helpful going building to building. So I just don't see a world where the kinetic blade could be better than this. We also got the new masks, one of them being the fire mask, which is kind of busted. It does crazy ass damage and literally launches homing fireballs towards your enemy. And then the Omni mask, where you can throw it, and it's just like the Ender Pearl from Minecraft. Wherever it lands, that's where you teleport. support, although it's not the most busted thing in the game because it is pretty loud, so you know when to look out for it. You can also use the wind sprite for pretty good mobility. It's basically just another launch pad where you throw it down and it brings you up in the air, except I'd argue you have a little bit more control on where you can go because it brings you up a little bit slower. And of course, one of the best things they did this season is bringing back the dirt bikes and also the Mega City ones. Dirt bikes, best vehicle in the game. I love jumping around with them. They're super fast, great for going off-road. The Mega City bikes though, especially the new ones that they just brought to this season, aren't really the best. On the main road, they're fine, but when you get into an actual POI, they're kind of annoying to traverse around with because the turning on them is not the best. I understand this is somewhat the point for bikes like these, but it can just be super unplayable sometimes. But truthfully, everything that was brought into this season has been amazing. The battle pass is great, art direction is great, the map, and of course the loot pool. It's just something we've really never seen before to this degree. And with things like Godzilla, the grapple blade, and the kinetic blade all coming later down in the season, I'm super hyped to see where they go with this. So if you did enjoy this video, please do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys later.